Hey y'all, I'm Paige Feldman. I'm a writer and director, and here on this YouTube channel I'm documenting the making of my debut feature as a writer-director. It's called Back to You, and it's a contained romantic comedy. And this week, I'm taking the week off from my writing, from my script, because I just last week finished the most recent draft, and I like to take a second to reset, regroup, and get the script fresh again before I tackle the next rewrite. So this week, instead of talking directly about all the work I'm doing on my script and on this film, I thought I'd share with you a creative habit that I picked up at the beginning of the year. And since I've been at it for about 6 months now, I figured now's a great time to share it with you all and talk to you about how it's improved my productivity, my creativity, and incidentally this past week, even though I'm taking this break from Back to You, doing this thing has opened up a whole new avenue for me and Back to You. It's solved a creative problem that I've been struggling with from the beginning of writing this script, but more on that later. So the habit I'm talking about is morning pages. Now, if you're not familiar with morning pages, they are one of the crucial building blocks of Julia Cameron's program, The Artist's Way. In this book right here is where you find The Artist's Way. And The Artist's Way is a program that helps you find and nurture your creative voice so that it can speak to you more freely, and in the hopes that you live a more fulfilling and creative and rich life just by virtue of nurturing your creative voice. Now, I know a lot of people love the program The Artist's Way, and I know that what I described sounds great, but for me, I just don't think it was for me. I did this at the beginning of the year, the first 12 weeks of the year. The program's 12 weeks. And I went through all the steps diligently, did everything I was supposed to be doing. And it just wasn't working. I'm someone who's already in touch with my creative voice pretty regularly, and I nurture it and exercise it. I give it time to grow. I take myself out on creative dates. Artist dates are another of the crucial building blocks of the program. And so, because I've been doing a lot of the work that Julia Cameron recommends in The Artist's Way already as just a natural course of my own life, a lot of the work in here felt kind of basic and redundant and reductive, and it didn't strike a chord with me. And it's nothing against the program. I think that I maybe have just inadvertently been living in this space for a while, and it sounds like a brag, but it's not. It's just I love being creative, and I do it often, and I don't stifle that voice inside me that tells me to make something or do something. Despite that, the one thing that I hadn't done regularly before this program is journal. And so even though I was feeling really frustrated with the whole Artist's Way experience, within a few weeks, I knew that morning pages, that this journaling is something I wanted to keep in my life on a permanent basis. Even after The Artist's Way, I started with The Artist's Way with this official morning pages journal, because if I had something official and branded, it would make it easier for me to do it, because what can I use this for if not for morning pages? Once I finished this, when I finished the program, I bought myself a Moleskine. It says 2023 number 2, because this was the first one in 2023. And I've been filling it out diligently every day. So what are morning pages? Morning pages are simply writing 3 single-spaced, longhand, 8.5 by 11 journal pages per day. This front, back, front, and then the next day I do different colors. There we go. And then you see I started there. It looks a little bit like a serial killer journal, like in Seven, but it's not. It's stream of consciousness, whatever you want to get off your chest, whatever's in your mind, whatever you see, whatever you observe, whatever, you just write. Now, for me, I've been doing it not necessarily in the morning, because Julia Cameron's rule is that you do it as soon as you get up in the morning before you do anything else. And that didn't work for me. It didn't work for my schedule, my routine. My brain isn't awake as soon as I get out of bed. My body is ready to go, and so I exercise as soon as I get out of bed. Then on weekdays, I have a day job. I have to get to the day job. But when my day job is over, and I'd been looking for something for years since I started this non-creative, non-film industry job, I'd been looking for a way to transition from my data entry, data management job into my more creative work. And these morning pages have proven a perfect transition period. So after I'm done, after I've logged off of work, clocked out, I grab a snack, I grab a drink, either sparkling water as of today, or a tea, and I get to my pages. And as soon as I'm done, I'm feeling refreshed. I feel like all of the conversation in my mind is down. I'm clear, and I'm ready to go and create. On weekends, I do a little bit more of what Julia Cameron instructs. On Saturdays, I get up, I work out, and then after showering, I make myself breakfast. I have this thing where I have a snack every single time I'm doing these pages, or something to eat. And so I often just start off by talking about what I'm eating, just as a way to get me started. So I have breakfast and write them right then. On Sundays, because that's a day off from working out, I just get up, shower, and do exactly what she instructs. I have breakfast and I sit and I write my pages. And then on weekends, I'm able to like just fully get into my creative work, because that is what I reserve my weekends for, that and fun. Now, besides what I'm eating, what do I write about? Well, that part is just entirely free and open, which was super scary the first time I tried it, because as a writer, as a filmmaker who came in to the industry through the avenue of writing, when I sit down at a blank page, I need to have a direction, a story I'm going to tell, an idea I'm going to develop. That's why I love outlines so much. It helps me focus so that when I start drafting, it's not so scary. I have a thing that I'm working towards. Morning pages are the opposite. The only thing that I have to do in these pages is fill them out. I just have to write down whatever I need to write down in order to get to 3 pages. There are no rules. I can start telling a story. I can recap my day, but if I get bored recapping my day, or I can't find the right word, I can stop and I can, instead of thinking and sitting like, what am I going to write? I can just write about how I don't know what word I'm supposed to use. I can follow the stream of consciousness, the train of thought in my head, and get all those words down on paper. It feels like spring cleaning for the mind. It's active meditation. Every thought I have is valid. Everything I want to write down, whether it's one word that's kind of in my head or song lyrics. I've written out song lyrics that have been earworms in my brain sometimes. I accidentally misspell a word and then I go on for half a page about how weird it is that I misspelled that word and why isn't that word spelled that way? And what other words follow that spelling pattern? I've even done math. It's all just whatever's in my brain, getting it out onto the paper. While I know that sounds a little nuts, it feels really good to just have that freedom, to not have to finish a story, to not have to write the perfect sentence, to not have to be succinct and accurate, to not have a goal. Because sometimes I don't want to write about what happened to me today. I want to write about the fact that I put this Waterloo can in the fridge and it was too close to the freezer and it froze. Like literally happened earlier today. It's not a slushie anymore, but it was before, and it was kind of weird. And so I wrote about that. And while the beauty of morning pages is that it can be just stream of consciousness, whatever you're thinking, it also can be planned if you want to. I've sat down to my pages some days when I've been really stressed about working out a plot point for a job that I've been hired for. I had a rewrite job a couple months ago where I didn't know how to fix one of the notes, one of the things the director really wanted to dive into. And that was on my mind. And I was really annoyed at having to do, I'm making myself do that, but I was annoyed that I was sitting down to do these pages to get into my routine. It sucks. I hate it. And so I just started writing about how much I wanted to just be working on the story. And then as I was writing about that, I started writing about all the reasons why the solutions that I've come up with for that rewrite weren't working anymore. And then through that, I found another way that the character could behave that could kind of fit into what the director wanted, but also make it so that the integrity of the story and the tone stayed connected. And suddenly I had a solution. And these pages had become a way for me to do my usual pace and think and talk just by sitting down and writing out with longhand. And that was pretty cool. And that's not just a one-off situation. It's happened multiple times. And that's what happened with my rewrite for Back to You. I'm not even supposed to be working on it right now, but my brain is working on it in the background. If you're also a creative, you know how this goes, where you put a problem to the side and then you're like one day walking around like checking out what kind of yogurt's on sale at the grocery store, and you realize like between like, you know, doing price checks on the strawberry and the blueberry, like, oh my gosh, this character and this character can be the same person. Or, you know, something else. It's kind of like that. So I was writing a few days ago in this bad boy, my new one, what the word creative meant. And I was having this like discussion with myself. That's how it feels when I'm doing these pages. Like I'm having a conversation with myself about whether creative really meant original and artistic and all of the things that we connote with the word creative, or if its definition was really just the act of creating, regardless whether it was new and original. It's just the act of bringing life in some form or another to an idea, to a concept, to a story, to an image, whatever. And I realized as I was writing these words down that this conversation with myself reminded me a bit of a conversation in Back to You, where Ash, the male main character, was being asked by Mitch, the female main character, when was the last time he created something? When was the last time he was creative? And in the conversation as I currently have it, Ash admits he is a scientist. He isn't an artist at all. He never really has. And then Mitch goes on to use that idea, not against him, but to explain to him how she feels. And it's a good conversation. It's well written. I think it's pretty good. It's serviceable. It works. Ça suffit, as you'd say in French. And I hadn't really thought much of it until these morning pages. I was thinking, that is interesting that Ash just kind of lets her definition of creative rule, when in a subsequent scene, which is a scene that I just rewrote and really brought to life in this most recent rewrite, he argues with her about the definition of chaos and uses a scientific definition of it. And I love this scene. And this scene replaced some conversation scenes that were pretty tepid and made it a lot more voicey and character forward, and really illustrated both of their characters and their main conflict. Mitch is like a creative, free-flowing, feelings-first person, and Ash is, up till now, the only way I could really describe him was a little bit cold, because I've been having trouble figuring out his voice. But through this little conversation in my morning pages about the meaning of the word creative and how that kind of reminded me of the scene in Back to You, I realized that that chaos scene that I wrote feels the most Ash to me of any scene that I've written. And if that feels the most Ash to me, then Ash would argue with Mitch about her definition of creative. And he would say that it's the act of making something, of creating something, of breathing life into something in this world. And that's his voice. He is not cold. He is a scientist. He is literal. He wants to be accurate. And he is going to argue with this feelings first mentality that Mitch has, and they are going to clash. And so when I do this voice rewrite, when I get back into the script next week, I know exactly how to look at Ash now. And it's all because I did my morning pages. And I was able to look at my words and see similarities between them and other things that I'd written, and draw those connections, and then expand those connections, because I'd given myself space and time to do that. And I wasn't sitting in front of my script wondering and analyzing, so who is Ash? I was just letting my words fall out, letting those dials in my head turn, and I don't know if I would have made this connection in front of the yogurt. I'm just grateful that it happened at all, and I have to give credit to Morning Pages for making this connection happen. Yay. So that's one really illustrative, clear example of how Morning Pages have helped my creative life. But it's more than just being so goal-oriented and driven. It's about the journey that they allow me to go on. I get to sit down and write something that isn't supposed to be seen by anybody. It doesn't matter what I write or how I write it. And it allows me to vent and ramble and clear my mind, to transition from day job work to the creative work that I love. And because it all has to be longhand, and I feel like the longhand is a super important part of it, my handwriting's improved, and my left, because I'm a lefty, my left forearm and wrist is a lot stronger than it was at first. Like, these pages take about 45 minutes or so to complete, and my first day, I was dying with cramps, and now it's just like, I'm done, and I'm like, okay, time to move on. No reason to like sweat or give myself a little massage. And despite never having been a super consistent journaler before in my life, I really love all that they have brought into my life, especially just the ability to have some time to myself where my thoughts matter and I'm able to really like express myself. Regardless of whatever's going on in the day, I've made this time, this 45 minutes for myself to decompress. And that's like, it's amazing. I love it. If this sounds like something you'd love or you'd like to try, you don't have to go the whole shebang of like buying The Artist's Way. Although if you want to, and if it's a program that's interesting to you, if you want to get more in touch with your creative voice, or you feel like you haven't been consistent in terms of letting yourself express yourself creatively, it might be a great choice for you. So, you know, you can grab that at your local bookstore or even a library, but you don't have to do that. You don't have to even like buy the official Morning Pages journal. I just did that because I know that if I bought this journal, I was going to commit to the 12 weeks of the program a lot more easily because, like I said, I have the branded journal. But if you don't want to do that, you can do what I did and go grab an 8.5 by 11 moleskin. You can get it engraved if you do it at the store for like, I think like $4 or $6 or something. Or if you just want to take the easy route and go get like a $1.79 notebook from the Office Depot and say the Office Depot. I was going to say Home Depot for some reason. You can get a $1.79 notebook from Home Depot. No, you can get a $1.79 notebook from Office Depot and go to town, because all you really need are pieces of 8.5 by 11 notebook paper, some pens, and about 45 minutes. And if you want to try this, I would encourage you to set a time frame that you're going to do it for, regardless whether you like it at first or not, because it took me about 5 days or so to really get into it. And then it took me about 2 weeks to be like, yeah, this is for me. So I would encourage you, if you don't want to do like the whole 12 weeks that the Artist's Way program encourages, start with 3. See how you feel. At the very least, you're taking some time for yourself, helping yourself recharge, rejuvenate, and like at the very, very least, your dominant hand forearm is gonna be ripped. So I hope if you try it, you report back to me what you like about it, what you don't like about it. And if you've already done The Artist's Way, or if you've started Morning Pages, I'd love for you to drop me a comment and let me know what you think about it. If you love it as much as I do, or if you hate it and think it's a waste of time. I welcome all opinions, and I love having conversation about that sort of thing. So I'm not going to pretend right now that I'm going to be like doing my Morning Pages today, because I've already done them, because this right now I'm filming is creative work. But I am going to go take my creative self upstairs, do some editing of this video, and then I will see you next week for another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making Of, where I'll have maybe some more updates on Back to You, or just another video about, hey, I'm in my break time right now. Let's talk about more creative stuff. Any suggestions for things you'd like me to talk about, hit me with a comment, and I'll see you next week. Thank you all so much for watching.